Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. My name is Tinsley Garris. I'm the president here at the Northbrook Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to the annual State of the Village address. It's been a long tradition for the Chamber. The event really helps to keep our local businesses up to date on the happenings here, from economic development to policy priorities. So I want to say a big thank you to President Ciesla for honoring this tradition. So I'd like to invite our board chair, Julie Lerman, to give Kathryn a proper introduction.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome. As Tinsley said, my name is Julie Lerman, and I am the new board chair of the Chamber of Commerce. And I'm also an attorney at the law firm of Franklin Greenswag, Channon, and Capilla. So on behalf of the Chamber, I have the pleasure today of introducing the Northbrook Village President Kathryn Ciesla as she delivers her first State of the Village address. As Tinsley said, this annual event is a long-standing tradition that reflects the strong working relationship between the village, the Chamber, and the business community at large. We certainly thank President Ciesla for continuing this important tradition, even though circumstances have forced us this year to move to a virtual format. Kathryn Ciesla was sworn in as village president in May of 2021. Prior to her election as president, she served on the Board of Trustees for 12 years. As a trustee, she chaired the Administration and Finance Committee, the Ad Hoc Labor Relations Committee, and the TIF Joint Review Board. In addition to her role with the village, she's an attorney concentrating her practice in family law and is a co-founder of the firm Ciesla Beeler LLC. President Ciesla will answer questions at the end of her presentation. You can submit your questions using the chat box during the course of her presentation. And with that, it's my pleasure to turn this over to Village President Kathryn Ciesla.
Thank you so much, Julie. Thank you so much, Tinsley. Allow me to share my screen for a moment. We'll get started. Okay. Excuse me, everyone. We're a little ahead of the game. Okay, so I want to, at this first of my village addresses, welcome everyone and thank the Chamber for partnering with the village to present the State of the Village. I'd also like to thank the folks at the Northbrook Library for assisting with producing the State of the Village address, and certainly Northbrook staff for making this really, really easy for me. And I want to make a special thank you to the people of the village and, of course, the businesses of the village. You all have stayed the course in some incredibly difficult times. You've chosen to invest in our community and continue investing, and that means so very much, and it's so much a part of our success. I want to introduce you all, if you don't already know, to the village board. We're all elected. The village board has 4-year terms, and we take our offices at large, meaning there's no particular area we represent. Each member of the board represents the entire community. The woman standing on the left side of the picture is Debbie Ford. She's our village clerk. The gentleman next to her is Bob Israel. He's our most senior trustee, and he's chair of our Administration and Finance Committee. Next to Bob is Jojo Hebel. Jojo is chair of our Public Works Committee, and she's serving her first term, as is the gentleman to her left, Dan Papoon, who's our Public Safety Chair. Next to me is Muriel Collison, our second most senior trustee. She's chair of our Planning and Economic Development Committee. We have first-time newly elected trustee, Joy Abomi-Ellen, as our Communications and Outreach Chair. And rounding it off is Heather Ross, our Community and Sustainability Chair. Heather, too, is in her first term. Northbrook is an outstanding community, and I think we all know that and we believe that. And we have a really excellent foundation. Our residents are top-notch. our business people, our leaders, and the staff that works all across the village, in our schools, in our park district, in our library, and even in our village hall are just second to none. We're a financially stable community with a thriving economy. We've got world-class services, excellent schools, parks, library, and village, and we've got a quality infrastructure. Some things that are they're really worth repeating, some things that are worthy of note. We've got elementary schools. All of our elementary schools are in the top 7% of school districts in the state. Our high school is in the top 2% in the state. Our parks are award-winning. Our library is nationally recognized, and our village services are world-class. We have an outstanding business community. Our business community are really our partners. I think it's exceptional that over the last 2 years, while we've been in the midst of a challenging economic time, we've been able to stay the course, and we've not raised property taxes at the village level in 2 consecutive years. We've made it through the worst without touching our reserves. It's been truly tremendous. And our sales tax revenues, believe it or not, are at a 5-year high. This fiscal year, we are 30% over budget as far as sales tax revenues go. What we've seen that's new in 2021, 2022, is we've got a residential population that's now over 35,000. We don't know yet what all of the numbers will look like because they haven't been released yet. But as we learn more, we'll be able to do more with the data that we have. What we know is that 86% of our 13,000 housing units are owner occupied. The national average is 64.1%. We know that our median home value continues to rise, and it's now more than $530,000 per home. The national average is less than half of that at $240,000. It wouldn't be a state of the village without talking about COVID and what the village has done and what the residents have done to really deal with COVID. But I think first and foremost, we have to recognize the tenacity of our residents and businesses to be kind to one another, to mask up, and to get vaccinated. We need to thank our first responders, our healthcare workers, our teachers, our frontline workers for truly making a difference as we move through the pandemic. The Village of Northbrook has hosted 9 vaccine clinics at the Granger facility. We've put almost 7,500 shots in arms. 90% of our residents, actually more than 90%, have more than 1 shot, and almost 80% have the full vaccine cycle. And we received from the government $4.5 million in COVID relief, which actually makes up for the $5 million we lost in revenues during the pandemic. Some interesting numbers for everyone. The Village of Northbrook employs 263 people, but I don't know if you quite realize that 86% of our staff works 24/7, 365 days a year. Not only our firefighters, our paramedics, our police officers, but our folks in public works who manage to stay up shoveling snow or fixing water main breaks or doing what needs to be done at all hours of the day and night, even on holidays, right? 10% of a resident's property tax bill goes to support our village services. That's about $3.25 a day. Our village gets 31% of its revenues from sales tax, which is about $14 million a year. One of the things that's special about Northbrook is that we give grants every year to organizations that help our community. We've given $284,000 this past year, 80% of which went to mental health organizations that aid our first responders in dealing with crisis situations. And the vehicle sticker program that many folks participate in, residents have donated in excess of $45,000 this year to go toward those mental health contributions. Interestingly, we have a public works department that is responsible for lots and lots, hundreds of miles of roadways and sewers and pipes, 16,000 parkway trees. We've got, funny, interesting, 2,751 fire hydrants, kind of a dinner conversation quiz for your kids maybe today. And we've used 3,392 tons of salt over the last year. And many of you see those lines on the street prior to a snow. And those are our trucks putting out some beet juice and salt brine. And we reduce the use of salt by 30% when we pre-treat the streets. So it's outstanding. As far as our public safety goes, we have 3 fire stations in town, and we have 7,000 calls a year. That's about 19 a day. And one of the tremendous things about our fire response, our fire service, and our paramedics is that we get to you in less than 6 minutes. And when you really need us, our fire department is there for you. When you see our trucks driving around town, you're going to see in gold letters, our family helping yours. And the culture of our fire department is that our firefighters treat every one of you like family. And they take that to heart. And so as they come when you need them, they will sincerely care for you. There's been a lot in the news or a lot of chatter on social media as we turn to police about some events at Northbrook Court. But I'm proud to tell you that overall, our crime rates are flat or even below 5-year averages. And what we've done, what we've started to do to help protect our businesses even more is we've installed license plate readers around Northbrook Court, and we expect to do more around town. And what these license plate readers do is allow the police department to be notified if there's a stolen vehicle, if there's a vehicle involved in a crime, if there's an amber alert or a silver alert. So the police officers will get notice right away and be able to attend to that. We hope it's a safety measure and also a deterrent. And one of the things that you saw on the previous slide relative to our value of mental health care, I want to mention that Northbrook has always placed a strong priority on mental health. And our police department has 3 full-time social workers that aid our police and aid our residents in getting through difficult situations. The tenor of police in the country is changing, and that it's more of a crisis response. And I'm proud to say that Northbrook has always viewed policing in that way. Chief Kennedy, when he came in, he certainly wanted to maintain that feel, that culture, that value. And so he's made certain that 50% of our officers are crisis intervention unit trained. And we're working on getting more officers trained. So when someone needs a police officer and there's a difficult situation, that police officer has so many tools in his or her toolbox to respond well. Some of the other village departments, we've got our development and planning department. We've seen more permits in 2021 than we have over the last 3 years. An interesting statistic is that more folks are staying home. So we had 27 pool permits in 2021. That's 18 more than the prior year. Our IT department is responsible, as you would imagine, for our electronics. What you maybe don't think of is that our IT department is responsible for all of the technology in our safety vehicles, all of the technology and computers in our police cars, and in our fire equipment. One of the critical things that our IT department works on every day is cybersecurity. We hear so much about data hacks and breaches. Our IT department is a leader in protecting our information, our data from the bad guys. And then they're very quiet about it, but hats off to our finance department and our village manager's office. 26 years in a row, we've received the GFOA's Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. We continue to be AAA bond rated even through the pandemic. And we have to give our village manager's office and our finance department significant credit for helping us roll up our sleeves during the pandemic, cut costs, defray expenses, and get us through this in a first-class way. We didn't touch a single dollar of reserve money. We shifted, we budgeted, and we were efficient, and we got through it very, very well. Okay, so the people, the faces behind how it works. It's very exciting to have a new village manager, Kara Pavlicek. She's got 20 years experience plus as a village manager and city administrator. She's a leader, she's a team builder, and she's squarely focused on economic development and planning. Something I think we really need as we move forward. Chris Kennedy, our chief of police. He has a unique combination of talents. I would call Chief Kennedy a police officer's police officer, but he's also exceptionally focused on community relations. He's front-facing, he's available, accessible, and he's what gives police officers a good name. I'm really pleased that he leads our team. And I'd also like to point out we have a new Deputy Director of Development and Planning Services, Chan Yu. Chan comes to us with 10 years of experience in economic development and planning. And I've been in meetings with Chan as we've navigated forward this first eight months or so. And he lends a lot of insight to our planning as a village and working with potential applicants and developers. And I'm really pleased to have Chan as a member of our team. So as you know, we've had some retirements over the last couple of years, and we've got some familiar faces who have some new roles. We've got Madeline Farrell, who was our assistant to the village manager. She's been with the village 3 years, and she's now our assistant village manager. Madeline, I can describe her as a person who has limitless energy. Michaela Kolstad has been with the village for 15 years. She's our new Director of Development and Planning Services. She's calm, thoughtful, and creative. She is absolutely the person to lead us into a new future. Ivana Petrosak, she's our Deputy CFO. Or excuse me, she was Deputy CFO. She's now our Chief Financial Officer. She was in the private sector before joining the village. And I must say, she is largely responsible for helping us move through COVID in such a financially efficient way. And then finally, Tessa Murray, who's our Sustainability Coordinator. Tessa came to us in 2020 as a Greenest Region Corps member through the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus. And then in May of 2021, she became Northbrook's first sustainability coordinator. Now, before I go to the next slide, I'd like to say that I'm not supposed to have a favorite as village president, but I absolutely do. So please meet my favorite member of the village team. This is Chloe. Chloe is our Northbrook Police Department's first therapy canine. In fact, this picture right up here is Chloe's first snow. Chloe comes to us from Florida, and what she does is she's another tool in our toolbox for our police officers, our police department. When we have an incident, a crisis situation, when we have victims, when we have children who need to talk and tell us a story, Chloe is someone who provides a distraction, provides comfort, provides security. And she's been absolutely helpful and instrumental in working with residents and helping us serve the people of Northbrook in a positive policing way. I am surprised to say, but maybe not so surprised, that over the last year or so, we've had some examples of racism and we've had some examples of xenophobia in our community. And so I don't mind if you take your phone out. You might want to scan this. You might want to take a look. In May of 2021, the Village of Northbrook Board of Trustees adopted a pledge. And we asked the citizens of Northbrook, even businesses, to just be mindful, to be the best people they can be, and to judge people, as Martin Luther King has said, right, by the content of their character and not the color of their skin, not their military status, not their gender, not their ability or disability. It's so very important. So we're asking people to be mindful and really pledge to be the best they can be. So here's the fun stuff, right? The fun stuff is talking about what's next. What's next is we need to continue to be fiscally responsible and grow our economy. We have no idea what COVID will bring. We have no idea if people will really go back to work. We have no idea how the shopping trends will go. So we've got to be forward thinking. We've got to improve our downtown, not just talk about it. And we've got to expand the way in which we communicate with people. Just last night, the village board approved the contract with the Retail Coach. Retail Coach is a company that mines data that's out there. They take data from cell phones and credit cards, and they provide us with information on particular trade areas and retail gaps that we might have. And the idea is to help our businesses, to help our property owners, and to help our brokers be able to use this data to attract businesses to come into Northbrook to fill some of those empty spots that would be successful here. Just very quickly, they did a cell phone analysis of Northbrook Mall for us, Northbrook Court. And 15% of Northbrook Court shoppers come from Northbrook, Highland Park, and Deerfield. But 85% of shoppers come from elsewhere. So where are they coming from? Why are they coming to Northbrook Court? And how can we continue to attract those people to this regional mall? And the average income of a Northbrook shopper is $156,000 a year. It's interesting data, and we need to learn how to use it. And you know, we're here with the chamber, and in the second slide I showed of the presentation, we had sort of a quilt of photos of board members visiting local businesses. And the board has attended several chamber events. Throughout the year, we've masked up and we've gone out to several businesses in the community. And I want to communicate to you on behalf of the board that we care about what the business community has to say. We appreciate the fact that the business community is invested in Northbrook, and we want to make certain that you know that we value you and we want to work with you in a positive way as we move forward. Let's talk downtown. Some people love it. Some people want to see more. The truth is we're limited by our size, right? And we're limited by the roadways that are around it. But there are definitely things we can do. We formed as a board a downtown committee, and we're going to help gain some initiatives to move forward. Next year, when I speak to you about the state of the village, I am convinced I'm going to be able to show you public art, more lighting, better landscaping, outdoor dining, and tell you about outdoor events that we've had that have been successful in our downtown. Again, we want to hear from you. We want to do things creatively. We want to make this a place where folks continue to love together. I want to say you've heard it here first. Last night, we introduced an app for the village. We communicate in so many different ways with residents. We've got an e-newsletter, a print newsletter, a village Facebook page, a police department Facebook page, Instagram, Nextdoor, Twitter, LinkedIn, and now we have an app. Take out your phone, scan the QR code, go to the Google Play Store, the App Store, and download the Simplicity app. It's very easy. You need to log in, and it'll tell you, you'll ask to pick your community, and you pick Northbrook. You can sign up for push notifications about traffic or emergency events. You can also sign up to receive information about entertainment and certainly news about Northbrook. It's just another way that we can stay connected with you. So let's talk about events, the fun stuff, the good stuff. I'm pleased to say that the Northbrook Park District has been an outstanding partner with the village in the past, and as we continue to move forward. We had the Beer Fest in the fall. It was a wonderful event held in the Village Green. Live music, people, safe, social distancing. And there were more than 300 people at that event. We had the Illuminate Northbrook event at the Village Green, where we lit the big polar bear. We partnered with Rotary, and we had more than 500 people come. And we gave out collectible mugs in exchange for a coat. And Rotary collected more than 300 coats for its Coat Off Your Back program. Northbrook Days, a new great location at the train station. Earth Day and Arbor Day. We're going to have those events, at least we plan on it. But there will be some changes, but those events will proceed. And we're planning to do the 4th of July parade, and we're planning to do the fireworks. But like all things COVID, that could change. And then we have a spring event in the works, again with the Park District. Keep your eyes out for that. Very, very exciting is this. Sorry, everyone. On July 28th, Thursday, July 28th, in the downtown, we're going to partner our tradition of cycling with the Intelligentsia Coffee Company to put on the Intelligentsia Bike Race. This is done in Lake Bluff, Glen Ellen, Mundelein, Lombard, Chicago, and many other communities. And there'll be 400 to 450 racers that come into our community, in addition to thousands of spectators. The word that we've received from other towns is that this is a wonderful economic driver, a great community event, and something that becomes a tradition. And lastly, I'll say we do have our regular work to do. We passed a climate action plan in 2021, and we've got all of that work to move forward. A lot of it is a no-cost option. It's just changing the way people think and changing the way people act to be better to our earth and our climate. We have been named a Tree City for the 26 consecutive years, and we've received the U.S. Growth Award for our environmental improvement and our high level of tree care. We're going to revise our zoning code to be more up-to-date, more customer-friendly. We want people to say, Northbrook is a great town to work with. Northbrook is easy to work with. Northbrook is a friendly community to develop in. It's going to take 2 years, but we're going to revise that zoning code. And with respect to affordable housing, whether you call it workforce housing or aging in place, we learned from the census data in 2020 that our largest group living in poverty is women 75 and older. So we need to see some of these developments that come forward, bring some housing that can accommodate our residents who need the assistance. With respect to village facilities, we've got to invest in our village facilities. We're going to take a comprehensive review in 2022. We've got Fire Station 11 built in 1971, our police station built in 1974, and our Public Works building going back to 1956. These buildings were not built for the technology and equipment we have today. We have to change that. If we're going to continue to deliver world-class services, we need to have world-class facilities. Our financial stewardship. We don't know how the pandemic is going to influence our economy, but we've got to plan for the future in an exceptional way. We've got to maintain our high bond rating. We've got to be efficient. We've got to protect your tax dollars. And finally, Northbrook has an outstanding culture of innovation and evolution. Its people are entrepreneurs. Its business owners are just dynamic. The previous leaders, those who came before me, were clever and forward thinking. We need to continue that kind of thinking to emerge from the pandemic and to really move forward and to continue to position ourselves for success. So with that, I thank you, and I offer you the opportunity to ask questions.
I just want to clarify, you need to put your questions in the Q&A box, not the chat function. So please open up that Q&A box and submit your questions. And Kathryn, I'm going to start us off. Can you give us just kind of a general update? There's a number of economic development projects that are on the horizon, from Northbrook Court to Green Acres to Granger. Can you just kind of give us an overview of where those projects stand and what we might expect in the next, I would say, 6 to 12 months?
So the Northbrook Court is continuing to move forward, as they've indicated. I'm hoping that Northbrook Court will be in a position to bring something to us within the next 12 months. I'm hopeful. We continue to talk with them. We continue to have events at Northbrook Court. We continue to have meetings. I want Northbrook Court to know and understand that this village supports it and wants it to succeed. With respect to Green Acres, we just received within the last 2 weeks a petition and application. So that will be proceeding through our plan commission, and we should publish very soon a schedule of how that will move forward. But we do want to hear from residents to see what they think and how they feel about that site. And was there another site that you mentioned?
The Granger property. The
Granger property is for sale. And without talking too much about it, I expect, I hope to have something finalized by the summer.
Okay.
And we, I can mention also the Our Lady of the Brook property is for sale. We don't know what will come to that spot at either.
And you heard a prelim last night for townhomes on the Maurice property, correct?
Yes.
Any comments on that?
We'll see if the applicant will go forward. I think the board was generally favorable. But there was, there were some comments relative to the presentation, but I have to say that that's only the beginning of the process. And it's certainly important to make sure the plan commission vets that and we give people an opportunity to speak at the public hearing.
Great. I'm going to go through a couple of the questions that we've received in the chat box. The first one was, can you just comment on how the loss of parking revenue over at the Metro lot has impacted the village?
So the parking lot is supported by a parking lot fund. So it's not significantly impacted the village. We have a really low parking rate. I think it's $1. We're promoting commuting. I don't know if parking will come back. I don't know if people will come back. The lot is generally fairly empty, but we'll see. We'll see.
And at one point, there were some plans to do some improvements to the lot, or is any of that on the agenda for the coming year?
I'm not aware of what you're speaking about. I think we kind of talk about doing some different landscaping. We've actually repaired the lots. We've resurfaced some of the lots, but we'll continue to maintain the lots as necessary. We've certainly taken a second look a little bit as we're starting to partner with Civic to host Northbrook Days at the lot.
Okay. Next question is, what type of business is moving into the spot next to Graders?
Okay, moving into the spot next to Graders, I believe it's I'm not sure if you're speaking about the pizza place.
I think it's the Cove School.
Okay, so there's an auxiliary, a training facility of the Cove School is moving into that spot.
And speaking of the pizza place, any update on when they might open?
See, this is why it would be great to be in person so I could have staff here, but I believe that they actually posted on social media a couple of weeks ago that their pizza oven has arrived finally, and they're preparing to open soon. We are all very excited for that.
Looking forward to it. Okay, next one. Are we entertaining ADUs in our zoning code update or multi-unit zoning in what is now single-family districts?
So ADUs are still before the village board. I can tell you that last night, the majority of the board decided not to proceed on ADUs that are detached. And the board decided to move forward on sort of codifying our code and clarifying our code for what we allow relative to, like mother-in-law suite, for example. And the board also asked staff to prepare some documents to allow for accessory dwelling units that are attached, similar to what they do in Wilmette.
Okay,
there would be a special permit process.
All right, and then we have a question, and I think you touched on this a little bit. Are there any plans to have more retailers and restaurants in the neighborhood?
Which neighborhood? Like the downtown area?
It doesn't distinguish
say.
anything, but I don't know. I know you talked about the contract that you just signed with the retail organization, the data
retail
analyst.
post, they're called. Yeah, I think, the downtown is pretty full, right? But one of the things that our downtown committee is talking about is expanding the downtown along Shermer, going more toward the high school, going, past Granger. So perhaps there's an opportunity to develop and or redevelop some new retail there. And then certainly other areas in town, there are some vacancies. And it would be interesting to see what could fill certain spots. I think Northbrook is a great community. We saw the stat that said, the average income of a shopper in Northbrook is $156,000 a year. That's a person that goes out to eat. That's a person that goes to buy things. So I'm hopeful that I'm definitely hopeful that we can fill some different spaces.
Okay, turning the page, on the sustainability front, is the village planning to provide homeowners with any incentives / support to go green? Solar, I'm assuming they're asking about solar panels, things of that nature for residents.
I think we have we've made it pretty easy to go solar. And there are some government incentives often to go solar, federal government incentives or state incentives. But our sustainability commission and our sustainability committee will continue to look at that to determine what we can do to help people, go green. I think also it's important to offer different things. For example, the different recycling programs that we offer. It just gives people the opportunity to just do something little. It doesn't have to be put solar panels on your home.
Okay, you may be looking for Michaela again. Can you share the status of the lounge next to the taco place?
Oh, I would need to look for Michaela. Let me look down my table.
I don't know if she's on the
No,
call.
I cannot provide you with an update on that. I'm sorry.
Okay, no worries. Okay, I'm not sure that I quite understand this. Has the village considered updating residential and commercial water meter?
Yes, actually we have. The village has engaged in some preliminary conversations with, for example, ComEd. This is something that we're going to be studying, but there's technology out there where you can replace the water meter and have it work much like your ComEd meter on the same system, where it reads it, wirelessly, where you can go to an app and you can see how much water you're using. You can really monitor. So yes, that's something that we've talked about preliminarily, and I anticipate we'll go forward as far as studying the issue and then perhaps coming to the board with a proposal for doing that. Yes.
Okay, this is a shout out from Commissioner Scott Britton. He would like to say thank you for adopting the 10 shared principles for improved community and police engagement. So thanks, Scott.
Well, thank you, Scott Britton, for being a leader in that. I think the 10 shared principles is some good practices on policing that the NAACP and the Illinois State Police work together to put forward. And I think Scott Britton has really gotten many communities to sign on. And it's a good thing. It's a really good thing. So thank you.
All right. We've got another economic development question. Any news on what's going on at the shopping center at the southwest corner of Dundee and Sanders? I'm assuming the old Dominic space is what they're asking about.
So, that's a great, that's one of the sites that I think that the retail coach will hopefully be able to help us with. Obviously, what I know is that the Dominics is still paying rent on that empty space. So there's no real incentive to sublease it, to move it along. And, it's certainly not a good look for the community. It's not something we want. We don't want that to be an empty space. So I think, I hope that we can do everything we can or assist the landowner and or the broker in making that a home for someone.
Okay. Any update on the status of the Skokie Valley Trail build?
Yes, it is. It's in engineering. And the last report I received from village staff is that I think we're going to see some construction in 2023.
All right, can I continue along the capital improvement line and just
Sure.
Can you highlight any projects that will benefit or impact the business community that you guys are contemplating for 2022?
Boy, that's a really general question. In our capital improvement plan, our capital improvement plan really relates to major purchases. So I think what will impact the business community, I hope, is really taking a deep dive into the zoning program, really focusing on customer service, really taking a turn and focusing on economic development. I certainly hope our outreach, the board outreach, not just mine, but all 7 of us reaching out to different businesses, working with the chamber. We discussed at the board level making some changes to the 6B process to make it easier for folks to improve, old antiquated industrial space. So I think we're anxious to do all of that. And I would invite members of the business community, to talk to us, to come to us, and let us know if there's anything that they need, or things that they want us to do more than we're doing.
Okay. Any road projects that are on the horizon, like for Sky Harbor or any of the sort of concentrated areas of business?
So we improve roads on a cycle. I don't know if any roads in particular in Sky Harbor will be, are on our cycle. I'll find out. We're going to get our next budget probably in February for us to look at to see what's coming up.
Okay. This question is the occupancy rate of Northbrook office buildings.
What is the occupancy rate?
Yeah.
Well, I suppose we could ask. I could not tell you the occupancy rate as I sit here today, as I look down the road here.
But wouldn't you, in general terms, the single story, smaller office spaces are doing pretty well. It's the office, the Class A office spaces over on Skokie Boulevard that maybe they're having a little bit of a harder time backfilling.
Well, I haven't heard any alarm bells. I anticipate that there are a lot of folks that have leases that are currently running. And I have seen and I've read articles, people are going back to work maybe closer, or they're going back to work because they can't be so isolated. So I feel like we have a good, we do have a thriving office community.
Yeah, and the industrial space is doing quite well.
Yes.
Okay, so here's a big one. Any consideration of a railroad overpass on Shermer in downtown and Techney east of Finkston? Shermer downtown, I guess. They're asking about a railroad overpass on Shermer in downtown and Techney east of Finkston.
And Techney east of Finkston.
I'm not quite sure. I mean, railroad path.
Do they maybe somewhere to get us from one side of, like the golf course over to the other side, sort of like Ranger? I'm not totally sure. The village is not considering constructing anything like that. That would have to be done in conjunction with the railroads, and it would be multi-millions of dollars to do. So nothing like that is in the pipes.
Okay, has the village ever entertained the idea of having a teen center somewhere, a place where teens could go to hang out, study, drink coffee, read, talk, connect, and be together in a safe place?
I would love for somebody to do it. I would love for somebody to do it. I will say to whoever's asking, we have a community commission that has youth members on it. We have a sustainability commission that has a high schooler on it. I'm happy to involve teens in village government as best we can. And if somebody wants to put that kind of a space in, I'm all for it.
Okay, and they did make a clarification on this. This is not my question. The chamber building is a village-owned building. Would you be interested in working to make the building more energy efficient, as the building is very old? That's not my question.
You know what? We have 2 tenants in that building right now. I think we continue to move and make our spaces energy efficient, installing different lighting, being efficient with respect to roofs and heating systems and cooling systems. So as the village maintains that building, we'll treat it like every other village building and, continue to improve it and maintain it that way.
Okay, I'm going to skip over this next one. The Jacobs development in downtown seems to be moving extremely slow. Is everything okay? Will it eventually be complete, and are you concerned?
I was advised by village staff that Jacobs has picked up the remainder of their permits for the entire site. So I expect that construction will continue, and that will be finished within the next 12 months.
Okay, we've gotten several questions in the chat box about Northbrook Court. Again, asking for an update. You provided one. If anybody has a specific question about Northbrook Court, I'm sure President Ciesla would attempt to answer it if she could. So please put that in the chat box. The last question in the World's Clown Annual Convention in Northbrook in March 2022. It seems
Yes.
like an event that could get out of hand. Plans to proactively manage it.
You know, I've seen that. Lots of folks have sent that to me. You know, I trust that the clown convention will be successful, and I appreciate them coming to Northbrook. And I would encourage them to dine in Northbrook restaurants and shop in Northbrook businesses.
Okay. And this will be our last question. What are the village's goals to address diversity, equity, and inclusion concerns that many of us have involving housing, education, and employment?
Okay, that's great.
That's a big one.
Yeah, so I'm taking notes as I write. Okay, in all seriousness, I think diversity, equity, and inclusion has to be tackled on all sorts of fronts and from all sorts of sources, right? I think that the affordable housing piece is a helpful piece to help address that. I think that you know, even the pledge, even calling out xenophobia and racism, and asking people to be better is helpful. Our community commission is going to address some of that with different events, education, and activities. As to our part, we are working with staff to help train staff and offer some education and opportunity to learn more about bias and how we can be proactive. One of the things that I'm going to do in the near future, or the board will do, is we're going to have a commission that addresses and helps folks who live in the community with disabilities. You know, we have a senior services commission, but we have so many children and adults who live here who do have disabilities. And we've never, or at least, haven't dedicated any resources to making certain that that group of parents, caregivers, and individuals is well served. So we're going to be looking at that. And then at our board meetings, another thought, we've had racial awareness in the North Shore. We've had RAIN come to every board meeting since May and talk to us during the president's report about an issue that addresses race, discrimination, bias. And we also have RAIN writing in our newsletter about those same issues. So we're trying to tackle it on all fronts and in different ways. And it's something that we all have to do together, and it's something that we have to learn to call out, and it's definitely something we have to learn to do in a better way. But to the extent that that person, I think it's somebody anonymously asked that question, if you want to get involved, send us an application for the community commission, shoot us an email. If you have some ideas, let us know. We're happy to hear. This is something we all got to do together.
Agreed. President Ciesla, thank you for this very informative presentation, for answering our questions, for always being available, and of course your service. I know that it takes a great deal of time to do what you do, so we certainly appreciate what you do. Thank you everyone for being here. We certainly enjoyed having you, and we'll look forward to seeing you at our next program.